Welcome back. Let's now finally implement the login features of our application. So this is going to be a lot of work. So let's just get started right away. And to start, let's now look into our demo application right here. So we'll just type here JS and then see here when we click this from the login page, it should come to like this, and also here it should get all the values and these values. So in this video we are going to do all of this. So let's just take a look at our HTML document here. So as you can see here, the input login input and input username here. Okay, so this here it is the button here, as you can see here, right? Login button. Okay, so that for that we'll add the add event listener method as the inputs. So the username is going to come from this one with the class login user dash input. Okay, and the pin is going to come from this one, as you can see here. Okay, login input, this one pin. Okay, so this is the button here, and then we have the input login username and input login user pin as we have here, as you can see here. See here, input login username and input login user pin and input login user transfer to. So for these all, I have already created these all previously itself. Okay, so let's now create the event handlers first. Okay, for that let me just come down here. Okay, so event handlers it is going to be, so we'll just say button login, as we have already declared. I've shown you about it. So button dot add event listener. For that here we'll just say click, and then here we'll just say function. So here we want our function, and then here we'll just say console.log. For now let's just say login. See here we are getting the login, and then it is disappearing, right? So you can see it's flashing and going. That's because as the page reloads, the above button in the form of element, and so in the HTML the default behavior when we click the submit button is for the page to reload. So we need to stop that from happening, and for that we need to give the function here. So here we'll just say function e. So here e stands for event here in this case. Okay, and also prevent form from submitting. So here we'll just see dot prevent default. Now when we do this, you see here login, it comes. Now this works perfectly fine. Now you see that we fixed the problem. Now you see here the login. Now other things that's great about forms is whenever we have one of these fields here in these inputs. Okay, here inputted, when we hit enter like this, and then we actually automatically trigger a click button, click event on this button. So once again hitting enter in this field or in this field is exactly the same. Okay, as the user clicks right here. Okay, so the both of these the things here will trigger an event click. So you see as I hit here enter, see here it is coming the login. So we get more and more click events. So that's why we get the login log to the console. But now let's actually do work. So let's log the user actually in. So we need the account from the accounts array with the users. That's the users inputted, and so that's where our find method comes into play again. Okay, so we'll simply just remove this login page here now, and then we'll write accounts dot find of account. Here we'll say accounts dot username, here we name it, and then we'll set this to input login username. Okay, here we need the dot value here. Okay, so we did this here. I think in the guess my number game where we also read the values out of the input field. So here this is the same. So let's now actually save this here. Okay, so now let's actually save this into a variable, and now this variable needs to be defined outside this function. So that's because we'll need the information about the current account also later in another functions. It's a good thing to have a big important information outside the function, so that we can then remember it for other actions in our application. For example, when we transfer money here, okay, here, then we need to know which account the money should actually go. So for that we need the current account, right? So let me actually do that. So outside the function here, we'll just say let current account. Okay, and then here we'll just set that to, and then here we'll just say console.log. So here again we need to log in, so we'll just say JS and then pin. See here, when we log in here, so here we are getting the output here. Okay, and now here we got this object which has exactly this username. Okay, so it is here basically the object here. Okay, okay, here this one. Okay, so we got the user that is trying to log in, and now all we need to do in order to actually log the user in is to check if the pin is correct, and if pin here is like a password but something that we usually use like an ATM. So I decided to just go with that here because I think this looks a bit like an ATM machine here. So let's then do the test. Okay, so here we'll just say if current account dot pin is equals to number of input login pin dot value, and then here we'll just say console.log login. So when we save this, okay, again we need to log in here. See here, when we log in here, we are getting the login, right? So this works now. So if here we checked our pin which we entered here, 111 is correct. So in this case, so it is logging in. So let me just check if we give some without pin, it doesn't work, and if we give some wrong pin, see, it doesn't work. So if the pin is absolutely correct only, then in this case it is just going to log in. Okay, so see here we got our login, so this works now. Okay, this case is here executed perfectly. So this is the part that we already checked, and if we have the correct credentials, so if yes, then it got displayed the UI. So for example, in this case, here if we enter a wrong username something, and then if we give the correct pin, see here we are getting the error, right? So how do we solve this error? So we can do that by checking the current account, it exists or not. So in our if case here, if current account, here the conditions here, if the user is existing here or not. So let me just say here, if current account exists, and then here we use this operator here, and then we'll write this. So now when we run this, see here, we'll just give again the random number here, and then we'll just see here it doesn't work because it is not there in our code. And also we could do this here in this more accurate way instead of writing like this. So let me just remove this, and then here we will use this operation sign. So this is exactly the same which we have written before. See, now this works perfectly fine because when we enter here the wrong credentials as well, see, it doesn't give any error. So this means that here this is not present in our code. So these credentials. So we are correct right now. Now what happens here is above this here the find method here. So here here it will return the undefined if no element matches the condition. Now the account doesn't exist, but of course there is that's not our problem. But in our case, the pin is correct and account doesn't exist. What should we do? So let's see our flow chart here. So this here is the part that we already checked here the correct credentials. Okay, and if it is NS, then it should display the UA and then the welcome message. So let's write that here in our script. So here I am going to write here the display UI. Okay, and then next up we should display and calculate the balance, and the same with the summary and the same with the movements. And this part here we are leaving for the next section about the timer. So display balance, summary and movements. So let me just write that down here in our script. So here display UI and then message here. So the message here going to be here this one. Okay, and also here we'll just say, so let's just start here with our display here. So let me just here log in and inspect this. Okay, and as you can see here, it is the P element here with the class welcome here. So as I've already here declared here label welcome. See here label welcome, I have already declared this here. So let me just call that here right now. So let me just remove this here for now. And then let me just say here label welcome dot here the text content should be set to welcome back. Here we need the current account which we are just logging in, and then here we want our owner name, and then here we just say split. So the initials here. Okay, so to style the CSS, let me just go ahead and turn this here back on. So here in our style CSS here we have before previously turned off this opacity here, right? So when we just turn this here on back, so that we'll just get the login page here. So when we save it, see here we got this login page. So as we want the rest of the display here to be implemented, so let me just write here container app. So as you can know that we have here in the style CSS this app, so we are just calling that out. So here it should be container dot style dot opacity. So here we want our opacity. Here we are setting this here into 1, but some cases some people here generally uses here 100. Here why we use here 1 is in opacity it is just a value. Here it is between 0 and 1 in the CSS, so here we are using the 1. Okay, so let me just try the login credentials now. See here when we log in, see here we got everything here, so it works perfectly fine now. And also here we did the text content welcome back Jonas, which we from this credentials here, and now it works. But here the balance and these movements, as you can see here the balance and these movements here, they are all are hard coded, right? So display balance, and then here we just called display summary, and then here we just called the display movements, right? But now what we want to do, we want to do that not here, but actually inside of the logic function. So let me just remove here all of these here. So I'm just removing this here, and also this display balance I'm removing it here, and also display summary, so I'm removing this here. So we'll create that here in the function. So these functions right now in the beginning, when our script is loaded, we want to calculate and display the balance and movements and then the summary as soon as we get the data, and that we want to display. That makes sense. So as I have removed that all here, and then let's actually go ahead and call out them here. So let me just see here, display movements of current account dot movements. Okay, and then here it is, and then here it is cal display balance of current account and then dot movements. Okay, and similarly here it is for cal display summary of current account and then movements. Okay, so we'll just log that here again. So we'll just see for JD here now, which is the second account. So here we got Jessica's account, and then the here the content here, everything changed to Jessica's account as per that. So it works. So let me just check for JS right now as well. See here, content, everything gets changed here. Okay, this works perfectly fine right now. And now you see we are getting all these values. And so you see now we are getting all these values. So this data here dynamically really from the account object itself. So now we have all the movement statistics, summary, and of course all the balances we can see here. Okay, let me just show you here for the other accounts as well. See here, when we just go to the third account here, Stevens, as you can see here, this interest is a little bit odd, so it changes our display here. So we'll get back to that in a moment. Okay, and also here we'll just check for. See, okay, it works. Okay, now we are getting all these values, and so now with this works depending on the user's data. So let's go back, and as we log in we want to get rid of this login data here, this SSN, this one to be gone. So after we click login, this needs to be here disappeared. So let's just do that before this. So before display movements, we'll just set that here. So here we'll just say clear input fields. Here we'll write the code. So let's just say input. So let's just say input login username. So here we are just setting here to input login pin. So dot value, here we are just setting this here to empty none. So this here will start here assigning the equal to the field, and then here it will then be here the empty string, and so the empty string here will be assigned to this one, and then here to this one. If you don't use here this dot value, it would set the entire element to the empty string. So we don't want that, so we use here the dot value. So when I run this, see here, I'm logging here in this. See here, after I log in, see here it is just going. And also here we want input login username dot value. Okay. And then here we'll just say JD. See here, after we just log in, click, see here, this gets disappeared. So this works perfectly fine. Okay, when we click this here as well, see here it is just simply the cursor here, it is just blinking, right? So we don't want the cursor to be blinking. So after we log in, we are just getting here this blinking, right? So in order to stop that, here we'll just write that code. Now here we'll just say input. So input login pin, here we'll just say, and then so input login pin dot blur, here we'll just say, and then we'll set this. Now see, here I'm saying JD, and then here I'm just saying See here after JD. Now here I'm just saying, see, now it gets cleared everything including the cursor here. So this works perfectly fine. And now coming back to the cal display summary here. So this cal display summary here. So let's just go here and see this one, as you can see here, the above. So we calculated this here using the interest rate 1.2 rate, and right now for all of the accounts it is just calculating here the difference for 1.2, but here we have here the interest rate 1.2, 1.5, 0.7 and 1 for each of the different account. Okay, so here in summary it is just calculating for a whole rate. So how do we do that? So now, of course, we want to dynamically use the interest rate depending upon the current user. So that makes sense. And now we have to modify this function here a little bit in order to get the access to the data. So the interest rates, we need more than just the movements. So instead of movements, we want the entire account, because that's what we can take the movements from the account and also the interest rate. So again, we'll change this function here and pass the in the entire array. And so then from there we'll be able to take the movements, and we need to calculate these three statistics here, and then also the interest rate we have here. So what we'll just do here is, so in calculate display movements here we'll just remove the movements, and then here we'll just set it to the account. Okay, here in constant incomes here we'll just set to account dot movements, and then here we'll just set constant out also. Here we'll just set to account dot movements, and then here constant movements also accounts set to movements. Okay, here we have deposit here into 1.2 rate, so we want it to get dynamically from it, right? So here we'll just set account dot interest rate. Okay, and down here as well, so we just don't want movements, we want the whole array, so we'll just click this. Okay, now we'll check for stw, and then see here when we log in, right now you see this interest rate here changed. Previously it was 0 point something something, right? So now interest was calculated based on this data here. So this works perfectly fine, and similarly for everything here it just works differently now. See here. Okay, great. This works perfectly fine. Great. With this we implemented all of the tasks that we had in our flowchart in the functionality, and in practice what this means is that for the first time we made all of this data that we are seeing in our application dynamically. So depending on which user it is logged in, so we are getting here the changes again. Okay, so let's again here, let's just try here to change that here by entering the wrong pin here. See here it doesn't work, so it only works when it is the correct. Okay, see now. Okay, of course we could now hide this user interface and display here error when we click here this wrong, but this is just a simply learning application. We don't need to mess with all of that. What matters here is the correct version for now. So with the correct pin now, you saw the data changed here and back to the Jonas account. So that's really great progress. But just to recap, clearly the most important part here is the usage of this here, the find method here, and knowing that this is the correct method for this job. And so maybe analyze this line here a little bit and see what exactly what happens here, and also this nice usage of optional chaining. And then here we are ready to implement our next feature, which is going to be the transfer money from one of our users to the another one. So let's see that. So that's it for this section.